It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Morning Perspective. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. For many of us, many of you, I should say, it is day one of the month of September when it comes to your work month. So keep in mind that it is critically important that you guys start off with some momentum. And so thank you all for jumping in and joining me this morning. No better way to start off your morning than with a group of people like this one that will help you create some momentum. Watching from Uganda this morning, thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. We have had a few international people watching the show, so I appreciate you. Uganda is definitely a new country, so I appreciate that. Trisha, good morning. She's fired up this morning. She started 75 hard. Very proud of you for doing that. So just a reminder, guys, all of these episodes are available on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, now available on TuneIn, probably more places than that I don't know of, and that's the truth. So please, by all means, share this out on your streams on Facebook, but also please go to those to the podcast platforms and share those episodes with people there. That's an easy way for people to consume this content, and it's a way to start growing this audience to be exactly what we all want it to be, which is impacting more lives and more people. Special announcement this morning. Yesterday was my parents' 47th wedding anniversary, so to my mom and dad, happy anniversary, 47 years of love and happiness, and here is to many, 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 many more of those. You know, it's hard not to be, not to have a lot to live up to when you have parents as awesome as mine. So love you, mom and dad, and happy anniversary. So this morning's topic, guys, is: do you think about what you want, or do you think more about what you don't want? This one's gonna get you thinking a little bit this morning. It is interesting when we actually start to explore ourselves, explore our minds, explore what we think about, exactly what we start to find out. And so you guys know I read a ton. I read a lot of books, and I try to read every single day. I'm in the second round of 75 hard, so I am reading every single day now. And I was reading something this weekend that reminded me of this topic, and it's something that I realized a little while back now. Color is messed up here. There we go. I realized a little while back, and I started to put into action in my own life, was spending more time thinking about what I want versus what I don't want. And so what I think we're trained to do a lot of times, you know, when we're growing up, is to actually think about what we don't want versus, you know, taking the time to think about all the things that we do want and thinking about those things in detail. So I've been reading a lot on this topic about, you know, our thoughts and how those thoughts turn into actual things that happen in our lives. And so I want to share this with you guys because I think it's super, super powerful. So a lot of us, when we think about what our goals are, we set those goals with the intentions of keeping ourselves safe, keeping ourselves away from trouble. Freedom ultimately comes from safety, right? You can't be financially free. You can't feel free in your life. You can't feel fulfilled if you don't, in some regard, think about what you don't want. And so, you know, I would tell you guys this. Everybody thinks about what they don't want in life, but you have to be able to compartmentalize those thoughts and spend far more time, spend 95% of your time creating a plan for what you do want instead of trying to avoid what you don't want. Because when you start to think about what you don't want, you're spending time thinking in the negative. And what ends up happening is that so many people try to avoid what they don't want that they actually manifest that into their lives. So they spend so much time with their minds occupied by those thoughts of what they don't want that they actually invite it more. Because the reality is that our lives are programmed and set in a direction to do things that are positive. They are not meant to avoid the negative. In fact, the negative is part of that positive journey. And so we have to embrace those things that are negatives that come along the way, take those lessons and discard the rest of it and move on. But what we find in a lot of people is that people spend way too much time actually thinking about the details of how to avoid the things they don't want. And so when they spend time thinking about those details, what they're really doing is creating that space in their life that invites those negatives. So drop something in the comments, guys, if you've ever felt like you've done this yourself, if this is kind of like a light bulb going off for you. It was a light bulb for me. And I'm not, by the way, saying that that you have to be a negative person to do this. Like, you can have a really good attitude in your life, but still invite this negativity by trying to do all the things that you don't want. So, for example, have you ever had somebody ask you this question? Well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? What should I say? What should I... It's not about what somebody else wants you to do. What you are doing in that moment, if you've ever asked that question to someone, is you're trying to fill that gap. You're trying to fulfill the other person's need instead of doing what is actually in your heart. And so what is right and wrong is not dependent on what somebody else thinks. It's dependent on what you think. And so what we do a lot of times when we're asking those kinds of questions, when we feel like we just want somebody to give us the answer, is we're trying to shortcut a process that can't be shortcut. And for you guys that think a lot about, spend a lot of time with fear in your life, these are the things that happen as a result of your fear. You start to spend more time thinking about how to avoid those negatives. And so I want to give you guys a couple of tips on how I have reprogrammed this in my life. And that is, number one, I spend a lot of time thinking about my goals. So where do I want to go and what is it going to take for me to get there? Spending time actually thinking about what it would feel like when I accomplish that goal. Tying that to the actual emotions that I would feel when I win, when I get over that hump, when I get what I want. And here's the opposite of that. I want to prove to you guys that you do this on the negative side. How often do you think about the what if scenario on the negative side? What if something happens and you can actually feel that negative in your mind? You can feel that negative emotion start to take you over because you're actually afraid of what would happen if that manifests itself. Good morning, Glenn, Dina, Elizabeth, Dean, Terry, what's happening? David Doyle, Dom Manzo, what's going on, guys? Good morning. Corey, good morning to you. Think about that, guys. So think about how anxious you get when you think about the what if on the negative side, okay? And that's proof to you that you do this. And so what I would ask you to do is to reprogram that, to spend time thinking about what happens if on the positive. So if your goal is to make six figures, or, whatever that is, or to buy a new house or to buy a new car, literally spend time creating the emotion in yourself that happens when you feel that. So if you were to, I use this exercise a lot when I'm coaching people. So I ask them what their goals are, like financial, professional, personal, family, all that kind of stuff. And then we sit and talk about why. So when they set a monetary financial goal, I ask them what exactly they want to do with the money. Because here's a little secret, guys. It's never about money. Nobody is actually driven by money. Everybody is driven by what they want to do with it. And so for you guys, when you're thinking about your goals, when you're thinking about what you want to do, if you can tie yourself closely to that emotion, to what it feels like when you win, you're going to produce and create a lot more success in your life, because your subconscious mind will start pulling you in that direction. It will start taking you in the direction of that success, because your body wants to feel that way. Your mind wants to recreate that emotion because it's positive. And by the way, this is also how you flush out the negative. How you stop thinking about what you don't want is by creating so much of these things that you do want, that you don't have time to think about the things that you don't want. You spend all your time in the direction of your goals, not in the direction of your fears. So I appreciate you guys jumping on. I appreciate everybody spending their morning with me every single morning. There's a lot of you guys that are on here every single morning. Again, if you guys could share this out, share it on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. It's real easy. If you guys find value in this, just click the share episode button and send it to somebody that you think might want to hear it. For this topic, guys, I'm going to end on this. Spending time on what you want is the absolute single most important thing that you can do. This morning, I woke up at 5:30. I spent the first 2 hours of my day organizing myself and setting the direction for my week. Much of that spent thinking about what I need to accomplish this week, this month, the rest of this year, writing that all down and starting to visualize and create that win in my own mind. And so I would ask you guys to spend some time doing that today. And then when you're done with it, measure the feeling that you have as a result of spending time thinking about the things in your life that you actually want to bring into it. And if you do that, guys, you're going to be headed in the direction of living a much better life, more fulfilled. You're going to accomplish all the things that you've been trying to accomplish that have just seemed like they've just been a little bit out of reach. The only thing between you and your goals, guys, is just a little planning and execution. And once you get the plan in place, then it's just getting to work and starting to check things off the list. So I appreciate you guys spending your morning with me here. We will be back here tomorrow morning at 7:30 for another episode of Morning Perspective. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And I will see you tomorrow morning.